That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All I have to say is we have not seen a week of football like that in the longest time. I mean, this is going to be a ton of work that we have to do for our fantasy football teams, a ton of research that we have to do to figure out how we are going to operate through this 2020 season, because these players, I mean, they are dropping like flies, and it's no coincidence. I mean, going up, we knew. I mean, I made a video literally just talking about this one exact fact, that depth was going to be so important in 2020 because without the preseason, without an extended training camp, throughout the entire offseason where a lot of these players were under quarantine, we know that there were going to be a ton of soft tissue injuries going through this entire season. But I mean, even though we knew that, we were not expecting anything like this. I mean, it's week 2 already, and just guys, I don't even know what to say. It was horrendous. But we are going to try to cover every single player that suffered a major or a minor injury. I'm not even going to do minor injuries, honestly. I'm just going to try to go through and make sure we cover all the extremely important injuries that we saw on Sunday and what we can expect from a fantasy football context and what we should be looking for in the coming days, and try to evaluate how long these players are going to be out. But guys, before we get into the video, I just want to say, one, thank you for everyone who's gone out there and liked and subscribed to the channel. I mean, even though, you can tell I am just in a horrendous mood. I feel bad for all of these NFL players. I mean, I just am looking across my fantasy football teams and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? But yeah, thank y'all for the support on the channel, and I'm really sorry that we are not necessarily having the best video quality at the moment. Y'all know that last video that we made, it looked tremendous. But I went out there and literally an hour after I shot that video, I broke that webcam. So yeah, I mean, we have a new webcam coming in tomorrow. I ordered it as soon as I broke the other one. So this is going to be really, I think, the only video that you have to deal with the poor quality again. And also, one other thing, if my voice kind of sounds gross, I really sound raspy, is because we have been live streaming and answering your fantasy football questions nonstop throughout the entire week. I mean, last night I did a 4-hour live stream. This morning I did another 4-hour live stream. And that's something we're going to continue to do throughout the entire season. So if you want some personalized fantasy football advice, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you have the bell on. That way you can be one of the first people in the live stream and you can get all your questions answered. But regardless, let's get into these players. First, starting with Sammy Watkins. So Sammy Watkins went down in week 2. It was with a head injury, and sadly, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a concussion. And that is just horrendous news for a multitude of reasons. One, we are obviously concerned with Sammy Watkins' overall health because, I mean, there's just been countless studies. I mean, I have to research it for some of my classes. That y'all know I take a bunch of science classes at UT. And I mean, we study concussions, and it's not something that you want to be messing with. And from a fantasy football context, you especially don't want to be messing with it because you have no idea in terms of when is this player going to come back, what is his practice schedule going to look like, and I mean, it's just really up in the air. And then if you go out there and you suffer another concussion, he's going to be out even longer than he was the first time. So I mean, really sad for Sammy Watkins, wishing him the best, wishing that he gets healthy soon. I think that we can expect him to miss anywhere from no time to up to a month, but yeah, let's move on to our next player, probably one of the 2 players that everyone has their eyes on. Christian McCaffrey, he's getting an MRI on his ankle. I mean, he wasn't immediately ruled out of week 2, which is a positive sign. But at the same time, I mean, look at week 1. I mean, George Kittle came back into the game and with his knee injury, and then he did not practice all week, and he was not even close to playing in week 2. So maybe with Christian McCaffrey, we actually end up seeing him miss a couple weeks, and that would just be disastrous for anyone who took them in their first round, because we were really banking on Christian McCaffrey being that player that was going to be able to go out there, put up 30 points a game for you, and it just looks like if you don't have that in your lineup and you were relying on it, you may be just taking L's from here on out. But the one positive thing about this entire week is, yes, you probably had some guy on your roster get hurt. You probably had some guy in your starting lineup go down to a significant injury. But with the amount of injuries that we saw across the NFL, I don't know if you want to call this a silver lining, but whoever you're playing in week 3, whoever you're playing in week 4, they most likely had the same exact thing. They most likely had a player go down to an injury or 2. And I mean, it's not something to be hopeful about, but I mean, guys, everyone is dealing with this. Everyone's playing in the same season. It's not unfair to anyone, and it's really crappy to say. This is why I play in a ton of fantasy football leagues, because even if I have a player go down in one league, I mean, he goes down in the 14 others as well, and over a large sample size, kind of evens out. But yeah, real sorry if any of these guys just went down for you today. Hopefully they went down at the end of the game, so you still got some fantasy production and maybe won your week 2 matchup. But one player that went down at the very beginning was Paris Campbell. And guys, I'm going to address this right away. I don't want to say I was right, but it looks like whenever I was going out there and telling people to start Paris Campbell in week 2, and just my immediate take that Paris Campbell was the wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis, way ahead of T.Y. Hilton. People were calling me crazy, but I was going out there and saying, guys, just look at T.Y. Hilton's drop in efficiency year over year over year, and Paris Campbell is that number 1 target there. And clearly, I think after we see their usage in week 2, that opinion and that kind of take was correct. But sadly, we see Paris Campbell go out there, get carted off the field. I mean, my just heart dropped down to my stomach. I was so concerned. Immediate thought was torn ACL, but it was reported later that he did actually avoid the ACL tear. But regardless, I mean, this is a wide receiver that we were excited about putting in our flex spots, putting in our wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 spots for the coming weeks. And I mean, he's not going to be playing. I would be extremely, extremely surprised if Paris Campbell made an immediate return anytime soon. Now, one player I have across a ton of Superflex fantasy football leagues, so this definitely hurts me, is Drew Lock. Drew Lock is going to be out 2 to 6 weeks with a strained AC joint. And I mean, man, this is very sad. And I think what is going to end up happening with the Denver Broncos, I mean, they're not going to be able to win games with Jeff Driscoll. I mean, it's just something that it would be so hard to project. So it looks like Drew Lock's long-term outlook, I mean, if Drew Lock takes 4 or 5 weeks to get back into the game, they lose those next 4 games, and the Denver Broncos are sitting at 0-6. How motivated are they to win games? Are they one of the teams that just goes, you know what, we're throwing in the towel, we're going to go get Trevor Lawrence and Drew Lock? I mean, this could be very much easily the end of his NFL career, as sad as that is to say. But I mean, we have to look at this from an objective lens point. And I have Drew Lock a lot of places that I was relying on him, but man, it's looking tough. And speaking of Drew Lock, let's talk about one of his pass catchers, Courtland Sutton, a player that was limited going into the game. It looks like he kind of re-aggravated his injury. He left the game with his knee bothering him, as well as some cramping. And I think this is something that's going to plague Courtland Sutton for the coming weeks. I mean, not necessarily something that you really want to go out there and try to play through. I think that Courtland Sutton should have sat out this week, just taken another week to come back before he had to go out there and re-aggravate the injury. But of course, hindsight is 2020. Let's get to the next player. And guys, I know I am just rambling on, but we have so many players. I mean, this week was insane. I mean, we have not seen something like this in an extremely long time. This next player is going to be Raheem Mostert. So Raheem Mostert, I initially thought that it was a torn ACL. I mean, that's what people were spamming in my fantasy football group chats. But then we look at it later on. It looks like it's going to be a sprained MCL. And I mean, man, this is something that's going to immediately open up some opportunity for Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon. I think both of them become not necessarily startable right away, but on the radar. And this is a situation that we're going to have to monitor. It's something that I'd imagine I'm going to be talking about a ton in the live streams this week. Yeah, so that is massive, massive. Now, let's talk about Tyrod Taylor going down and, I mean, just a quote-unquote hurt chest. I think maybe they just wanted to throw Justin Herbert in there, and Justin Herbert looked fantastic. A player that I have on a ton of Dynasty Superflex leagues that I'm excited to go out there and throw into my QB2 spot. Justin Herbert looks like he can possibly save players like Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. I personally think I would be going out there and selling high on Austin Eckler after this game, but that's for another video. Yeah, but very much a situation to monitor. I think Tyrod Taylor lost his starting job this game. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a high ankle sprain, already ruled out for week 3. I mean, man, Jimmy Garoppolo, another player that I have on so many Superflex leagues. I mean, just going out after the second half. And Drew Lock, Drew Lock I had in some starting lineups. I mean, this was a horrible week for everyone. And Jimmy G, high ankle sprain, already out next week. I mean, this is going to impact George Kittle. Hopefully, George Kittle can make it back next week for us, because I am also relying on George Kittle in a ton of leagues. But yeah, another injury to monitor. Now, the injury that is the biggest storyline for the day, Saquon Barkley, torn ACL. I mean, there's going to be a ton to go into this New York Giants evaluation. Maybe I make an entire video just based on this New York Giants offense now. And I mean, guys, I just want to say I feel horrible for Saquon Barkley. I feel horrible for anyone who drafted him in fantasy. I mean, I know some people are going to run out there and say Wayne Gallman is worth a pickup on the waiver wire. He's going to be startable, but I'm looking at this roster and I'm just saying, hey, man, their offensive line is so bad. Saquon Barkley was barely being able to score fantasy points himself. Are we really thinking a player like Dion Lewis or Wayne Gallman is going to be able to come in? I think that they just end up having to really lean on Daniel Jones and the pass catchers in this offense, and we're just going to have to see a complete shift from the New York Giants in their play style. But I mean, just horrendous news. Now, Devontae Adams left the game with a hamstring injury. Now this is something, I mean, we don't have the details. This is the definition of an injury that you need to monitor. I mean, like last week, whenever I made the video for injuries to monitor after week 1, I mean, right away, it started off with Michael Thomas and his ankle injury when nobody was really talking about it. And I said, this is something that we need to monitor going forward, see if he's going to be able to be active or maybe he's just limited. And then a couple days later, it comes out, he had a high ankle sprain. This is something that's going to bother him for the next couple of weeks. Devontae Adams, I think that a lot of people are overlooking this, not really putting too much stock into it, but maybe this is something that lingers. Maybe he actually misses some time from this. So we're going to have to monitor how he's practicing, if he's going to be a full participant, if he's going to be limited, something that we really want to know. Now, lastly, Cam Akers and David Montgomery both suffer injuries. Hey, I have not necessarily read, no details really have came out on these injuries either. So along with Devontae Adams, these are 2 more injuries that we need to watch out for. We need to monitor. We need to see if they're going to be available going into week 3. But guys, I mean, I have a ton of work to do in all these situations. I'm going to go through, try my best to make some good waiver wire pickup suggestions, go through and try to look out how each one of these teams is going to maybe slightly change their overall game plan to make sure that they are maximizing their personnel. But I mean, guys, yeah, we have a ton of work to do. This is going to be a long week. Really hope y'all can join me for the live streams coming soon. And guys, I'm very excited that the video quality is going to be drastically improved. The live stream qualities are going to be drastically improved. And please check us back out and let me know what y'all think. That's all I got. I really hope y'all enjoyed the video. I mean, I did not enjoy making it. You can probably hear by my voice. But yeah, that's all we got for it. Hopefully, we don't see any injuries tonight during the Seattle Seahawks game and the New England Patriots game. I recorded this before that game kicked off, but after seeing how this entire Sunday went, man, I think that we'd be lucky to get out of that game without seeing any injuries. But that's all I got for y'all. Really hope that y'all go out there and try to make the most optimal decisions that you can to fill in where you can. And my one piece of advice is don't give up on your season now. Even if you had a player like Saquon Barkley that went down. I mean, the thing is, we are seeing so many players go down across the entire NFL that your fantasy opponents are also struggling. You're not alone in this. And I think the playing field is going to be level unless you go out there and you miss a guy like Paris Campbell and Saquon Barkley on the same roster. Just please don't give up. Continue to work that waiver wire. Continue to work those trades. And I mean, all you have to do is make some good start-sit decisions. Then you're going to go out there and then you're really going to be able to smash your opponents. But yeah, guys, that's all I got, and have a great day.